Hey guys! I've listened to your comments and what you guys want to see are the best value mods to improve your tone and stretch your dollar as far as it can go. So here I've got a great way to improve your bass tone on a budget. The SBK-3A preamp by Tone Monster. I'm Dan, this is Guns and Guitars. Let's see how this thing sounds in this full review and demo. Now I got this Tone Monster SBK-3A preamp on eBay for just 45 bucks. Before we get started demoing it, let's take a closer look at what we got. Tone Monster definitely has the do-it-yourselfer in mind when they created this thing because it comes completely pre-wired. In fact, you don't even have to solder your pickup connections. It's got a no solder terminal block where you just screw in your pickup wires. Just connect the hot wire of your neck pickup to the left terminal, the bridge hot to the right terminal, and all your grounds go in the middle terminal. Done. Super easy installation. Anyone can do it. Now this version, the SBK-3A, comes with 5 control knobs. You've got your blend between your pickups, your master volume, and then for the tone controls you have your treble, bass, and then the mid is actually a stacked pot. The bottom controls your boost or cut, and the top controls a parametric frequency selection. That's really cool. Speaking of frequencies, let's talk about those. Now all 3 frequency bands feature a boost or cut of 12 decibels at their respective frequencies. The treble controls 4 kilohertz, the bass controls 100 hertz, and the mids, because it's a parametric frequency selection, you can actually select anywhere between 800 hertz and 2 kilohertz. Now you're not gonna find a feature like that on any other preamp in this price range, and that's the whole reason why I wanted to try out this preamp. Now if you don't already have 5 holes in your bass and you don't want to drill a new one, they do offer this exact same preamp in a 4-knob version, the 3AD, where the bass and treble share a stacked pot as well. This preamp is also capable of running at both 9 volts and 18 volts for increased headroom if you want to add a second battery in series. And lastly, this preamp is designed for passive pickups only. You can use piezo pickups, but you definitely cannot use active pickups. Now before we get started demoing this thing, I want to tell you about a quick hack that allows you to audition your bass preamps before you actually install them in your bass. Just take a standard instrument cable and cut off one of the ends. Then use the hot and ground wires inside that cable to connect to the input hot and ground of the preamp. Then you can install the preamp into an old pickguard or even just a piece of cardboard like this, and then plug the other end of your instrument cable into your bass to try it out. That way, if you have multiple basses and you want to see which one's the best fit for your preamp, or vice versa, if you have multiple preamps, you want to see which one's the best fit for your bass, you can do so without having to gut your bass and install these electronics. Alternatively, instead of installing a 1/4-inch instrument cable, you could install another 1/4-inch instrument jack. Then you can just install your preamp into a pedal enclosure or even just a steel electrical box like this that you can get from your hardware store. Then you've got a preamp pedal that you can just install on your pedal board and use it with whatever bass you bring to the gig. This would be a good idea if you were dropping some serious money on a preamp like a Nordstrand or an Aguilar. That way when you invest $200–300, you're not limited to just one bass. Of course it would help to install an active passive bypass switch for those situations, which I'm going to show you how to do in a future video. And I promise you, that video is coming soon. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting patiently for it. So, all that being said, for this demo, I didn't actually install this thing. I just wired up an instrument cable to the hot and ground terminals, that way I can see if it's a good fit for this bass. Speaking of this bass, do you guys recognize it? It's the Moon Jazz Bass kit that I reviewed a couple weeks ago. Now, don't judge, it's far from done. I still need to work on shaping the body a little bit, but I did install some new pickups because I wanted to see how they sounded with this preamp. Now, because there's a lot of tonal options with this preamp, I'm gonna keep the demo pretty simple so you can hear all the subtle differences in tone. Unfortunately, that means that it's gonna get pretty repetitive, so I'm sorry. Okay, first, let's just compare the bass without the preamp versus the bass with the preamp and the EQ set to flat. That means all the tone knobs are gonna be set completely in the middle at the center D10. Okay, first off, you already noticed that this preamp boosts the signal gain a little bit all around. And even though I had the EQ set completely flat, I did hear it color the tone, probably a slight boost around 200 hertz or so. Okay, now let's play with the EQ a little bit. I'm gonna start by cutting the treble, then boosting it. Then when I move on to the mids, I'm gonna both cut and boost 3 different frequency settings. I'm gonna start all the way down at 800 hertz, then move to the center detent, which should be around 1K, and then boost it all the way up to 2K. And lastly, I'm gonna both cut and boost the bass controls. Check it out. Okay, now to give you some idea of how all these controls can blend together, I've come up with a few different settings that complement the 3 different playing styles: plucking, slapping, and picking. Again, first I'm going to record the bass completely passive without the preamp at all, so you can compare it side by side to the preamp with these EQ settings. Check it out. Now here's a few things that I noticed about this preamp. First of all, the low end works awesome. It really fattens up the sound and there's plenty of headroom to really fill out that low end. Now the mid and high frequencies, I do really like the frequencies that they manipulate. They sound really good, but I just wish I could get more out of it. I don't feel like I'm getting a full 12 decibels of boost out of the mids and trebles like I am out of the bass. Now I am running this just at 9 volts, so maybe running at 18 volts would help with that a little bit, but I doubt it. I mean, in my experience, running at 18 volts really doesn't make that big of a difference. Okay, let's summarize. Things that are cool! It's got a 3-band EQ with a parametric mid frequency. That's awesome. Installation is stupid easy with all the electronics pre-wired and that no solder terminal block. Can be run at both 9 volts and 18 volts, and you get all of this for just 45 bucks. Things that suck! I don't believe that I'm getting a full 12 dB of boost for the mid and high frequencies, and overall it boosts the gain and colors the tone with some low-mid muddiness. But overall, I do feel like this preamp does sound pretty good, especially for the price. But I can't tell if I like the passive tone better or the active tone better on my bass. So, when I install it in this bass, I'm definitely going to be adding that active-passive bypass switch, so stay tuned if you want to see that video. Also stay tuned if you want to see how this Jaguar project turns out. I'm Dan, this is Guns and Guitars, thanks for watching.